Hello, it's Rebecca here from Precious Pages Papercraft, and today's layout is for Mixed Media Frenzy. So that's when a group of us get together and we pick a layout to either scraplift or draw inspiration from. And this is the layout that we have picked for this week. I'll pop it up in the corner for you. So this really is a mixed media layout. There aren't really any patterned papers or anything on it. And as lovely as it is, I'm not going to lie, I really struggled with this one. It took me a couple of attempts before I was kind of happy with it. So on the original, I think, it looks like they've used texture paste through like a mandala stencil or something, or it might even be heat embossing on the background before adding some kind of paints and inks over it and whatnot. So I've pulled out this stencil I've got here and I'm going to use some texture paste. I want to colour it to make it kind of a light navy blue colour. So I've got white texture paste and I've used the chipped sapphire distress ink, and I've also mixed in a bit of Nouveau, not embellishment mousse, what's it called? Nouveau expanding mousse, we'll get there in the end. And that's in like a shimmery blue kind of metallic colour. Now I just want some detail from this stencil. I don't want to do the whole thing because I think that outer kind of ring is quite big. So I'm just going to do the middle. I tried to keep it neat-ish, not too fussed about the right hand side because I planned to have my photo on that side. So I've quickly cleaned up my stencil and used my heat gun to dry that off. Unlike the original, I'm planning to use a square photo. I've also pulled out this little like wood veneer or chipboard frame. I don't end up using it in the end, it just didn't sit right. So I'm also going to add some splatters to my background. I'm mixing the Nouveau embellishment mousse with just a bit of water to wet it down a bit, and then using my paintbrush to add some splatters. So I'm planning to go with a kind of navy blue and mustard yellow colour scheme to match my photo. And I didn't have the original to hand as I was making this layout. I knew apart from that kind of main section, there were a couple of other sections around the edge with colour on. So I've added some splatters to the top and bottom of my layout, and I'm just going to add a bit of detail there as well with my mixed media. Looking at the original now, it was kind of top and right hand side, but like I said, I didn't have that to hand at the time. I'm now bringing in some kind of yellow colour. This is a Shimmers Creamies in Dandelion. It's a lovely kind of almost mustardy, kind of yellowy orange colour, but it matches the jumper my little boy's wearing in the photo perfectly. So I added some splatters to my background. I'm trying to do the packaging technique, but it's not really getting in amongst that texture paste. So I'm having to bring in my paintbrush and use that as well, just to kind of smush the colour around, and adding loads and loads of splatters as well. And like I said, this layout took me a couple of attempts. So this was my first attempt, and I created this background and then decided actually I really don't like it, put it to one side, and then I created a second background using navy blue without the texture paste. So I just used the chipped sapphire for the packaging technique on my background, then added the stencil with the texture paste on top of that with white texture paste, but it just got lost on the background and I just didn't really like it. So I came back to this one again and was like, okay, we'll try and make this work. And I stuck with it, and I'm glad I did, because I do end up using this background, but it just goes to show that it just doesn't always work out first time around. And sometimes even when you don't like your mixed media, once you've carried on with your layout and you've got your photo down and your embellishments down, actually it doesn't look as bad as you thought. Like I said, I really wasn't happy with this background at all, but I actually quite like the finished layout at the end, so I'm glad I stuck with it. It's definitely the better option. The second background I created was worse than this one. So yeah, it is sometimes trial and error. I don't always get it right first time, so I didn't bother showing the process for the second background because, like I said, I didn't use it. So it was a bit pointless leaving that in the video. I also changed my mind about the collection I'm going to use as well. Like I said, I did struggle quite a lot with this one. I started off with Maggie Holmes' Garden Party, and I've matted my photo with white cardstock, And then I've added a layer of that patterned paper as well, because the colours in it match really well with my photo. So I raise my photo up onto foam, get everything ready so that that's good to go and get stuck down. And then I bring in some embellishments from the garden party collection. So I wanted to focus on the yellow flowers that are in it. So I pulled out a few. I've got some chipboard ones, a few from the sticker sheet, I think one from the puffy stickers. And I've also got these butterflies that are cut from the same patterned paper that I've matted my photo with. So they are a cut file from Pear Tree Cut Files, and I had them left over from another layout I created previously. So I thought, as I'd used that patterned paper on my on my photo matting, they would work quite well. So I'm pulling off some of the stickers in that yellow colour, and I'm adding them to white cardstock so that I can cut them out and then kind of use them as ephemera and sort of die cut pieces as opposed to stickers, because I knew I was struggling with this layout. At this point I still wasn't happy with my background. I don't think I'd created the second one at this point yet, so I kind of had it in the back of my head that this was not going to stick. So I didn't want to stick all the stickers down because I didn't think I was going to go with this background. I've also pulled out a couple of tags there from the collection, and I'm just having a play with it all, lining it all up, and it wasn't working for me at all. On the original layout they've used like dimensional paper flowers and loads of mixed media, but I really wanted to use the garden party collection and use these yellow florals because they went with my photo so well. You can see there I've taken a break, I've gone away. That's when I'd created that second background. Decided I didn't like that even more than I didn't like this one, and so I've come back to this background. But I've swapped out Garden Party for Paige Evans Wonders collection, and I have brought in some of the paper flowers. So I've painted two with the Creamies Dandelion, and I've painted the blue one with Chipped Sapphire Distress ink. I'm going to have those down in the left hand corner of my photo. I've fussy cut a couple of those mandalas from one of the patterned papers in the collection. I've gone with these ones because they match the colours in my photo quite nicely. I want to stick to kind of blues, greens and the yellow for this layout. And these were obviously sort of hanging off the edge of the page, which is why they're not full circle mandalas. So I'm having to tuck them under to hide that straight edge. But I'm raising all the outer bits on foam to bring in some dimension. I've got those flowers that are very dimensional, so I love dimension on my layout, but they are like a bit too dimensional for me. So I do need to raise some other things up as well, so it's not just those flowers that are a bit off the page. So I'm just poking some holes with a paper piercing tool for my flowers to go through. They've got kind of wire on the back. So I pop those in position, turn my layout over, and then just tape those down to keep them in place so they don't move. These wires can be quite sharp, so I just trim them off and then add a bit more tape on the background. And even at this point I'm still not convinced with this layout, but I do persevere. I've got these butterflies that I've fussy cut from another of the patterned papers. The Wonders collection is great for fussy cutting potential. So many of the pattern papers have got little things on that you can cut out and use to embellish layouts, and the butterfly paper is probably my favourite in the whole collection. So I've again stuck with the blues and yellow tones, and I'm going to add, I think, just the 3 butterflies. I've also got an acrylic perspective from Bramble Fox. I'm going to use that as part of my title. That acrylic piece says Moments. I'm going to add some thickers with that as well. I've got a smaller mandala that I'm just going to add to the top. I've left it kind of hanging off the page, and I'll trim that down in a minute. I always use glossy accents for my acrylic pieces just to make sure it gives them that strong hold and they don't fall off once they're in an album. And now I'm starting to get some more embellishments on the page. I'm liking this layout a bit more. I've kind of found my stride with it, and I'm finding it a bit easier to bring it all together now. I've also added a white die cut, just a circle, kind of a patterned circle, like almost lacy, to the top right of my photo there. Just used a metal die for that. And then this is the ephemera pack from the Wonders collection, and I'm really struggling to use a lot of these pieces because they are massive. And I quite like small things on a layout because you can kind of nestle them in together, cluster them and layer them, whereas these, a lot of the flowers are just ridiculously large. So I'm challenging myself to try and use some of them, and I pick out some of the smaller bits and they match the colour scheme for this layout perfectly. Sorry, there's a bit of a glare on one of those ephemera pieces there. I hadn't noticed that when I was filming, but I picked out kind of the blues and greens and those flowers, and then I've got a couple more that I'm just sort of playing around with, trying to see if I can make them work. I think I stick one down the bottom, but I can't remember if I do now. I'll have to find out. It's only been a few days since I made this layout and I've forgotten already. I've also got the sticker book from this collection, and this is much more up my street. These are smaller things to use, so you can kind of tuck them in like I'm doing here. They're just much easier to use for me. So I've pulled out one of the yellow flowers with some green leaves. I'm just going to stick it on white cardstock because these are almost translucent, these stickers, but I want to be able to see the colours against my background. So I'm just sticking it onto white cardstock, and then I'll use it as kind of like a die cut piece. And I'm just going to place that down in that cluster of paper flowers to bring a bit more detail down there and a bit of the green. And I also pull off a couple of the smaller flowers and scatter them on my background. There's a little buzzy bee as well. There's two of them. One was darker blue than the other, and I wanted to get one of those on. So again, I'm sticking it onto white paper or white cardstock before sticking it down to my layout, and I raise him up on a foam pad just to add a bit more height and dimension up to that top right hand cluster there. At the moment it's looking quite flat, so this bee on the foam pad just brings that a bit of height up to that area, and it's not quite so flat now. And these are some old foam thickers. I absolutely love these. I've got 3 packs of them, I think, or might have even started with 4. They've got navy blue and white alphas in them, and I just love them. They're perfect for longer titles because they're not too big. So I've just pulled out the letters to spell the words with you. So my title now becomes Moments with You. And I really like that because this was a walk that my son and I did through the woods. We just had such a lovely time. We are so happy when we go to the woods. It's like our favourite place to be. He's in his element when he's outside, and they're just some really special moments. And I know once he's at school full time come September that these moments will be very limited, so making the most of them now in the afternoons whilst we can. Also adding a few more splatters to my background. I've covered a lot of my mixed media up. In the original there's a lot of mixed media. I've not done as much, and what I have done is covered up. So although I love the layout, the original layout, it's not got any pattern papers or ephemera or anything like that. It's literally just mixed media and paper flowers from what I can tell. So I started with that in mind and kind of went off on a tangent and did my own thing, as you do. So mine's ended up looking a little bit different and a lot more on the page, but you have to make it your own, don't you? And you have to be happy with it. So I just kept going until I was happy. And then my finishing touch for this layout is this gorgeous sequin mix from Spiegelmum Scraps. It's called Lost in the Pages. And it's absolutely stunning. It's perfect for this layout. It's got yellows, greens and blues. There are a couple of sort of iridescent pink ones as well, so I just make sure I don't get any of those on the page because it's not really part of my colour scheme. But I've definitely pulled out the yellow, green and blue tones, and it's just this sequin mix was absolutely made for this layout. I'm telling you, it's perfect. So I've just scattered a load of those around the main area and that cluster along the top, and then used glossy accents to stick those down in place. And that's my layout finished. So thank you for bearing with me with this one. Like I said, mine has come out looking quite different to the original, but I'm happy with how it turned out. It was definitely a process, and it went through a bit of a journey and almost was completely different. But I'm glad I stuck with that original background and used it because I do like how the end result came out. So I haven't yet even said, Mixed Media Frenzy is a Facebook group, and every Friday a group of us get together and pick a layout to scraplift. So we're all working from this inspiration piece. In the description box below you'll find the links to all the other ladies' channels, so do hop along to their channels, and I will also pop a link in the description box for the Mixed Media Frenzy Facebook group. If you like mixed media or you're looking for some inspiration, it's a fab group to join, so do head on over and join. But for now I shall leave you with some close-ups, and I'll be back next week with another Mixed Media Frenzy layout. So until then, take care.